Is hydroquinone safe for black skin? Does hair grow back thicker after you shave it? Is it actually possible to have an even skin tone from head to toe? You like that little Diane Sawyer thing? Listen, man, a lot of y'all and your cousins in there, you're spreading myths. Some of y'all on the internet believe some really weird things about skincare, particularly within our community. The bad thing about this, though, is that a random person on the internet can say this, and some of y'all take it away as gospel. So, in order to bust some of these myths, I brought on the lovely Dr. Alexis Stephens to get down to the bottom of this, so keep watching. Dr. Alexis Stephens, we all love and stan this woman's channel, so make sure you check it out. But she is going to be busting down some of these myths, starting with one of my favorites, this notion of having an even skin tone from head to toe. Is that something that we can obtain?
So I understand why people want this, right? A nice, even, glowing complexion is a beautiful complexion. But the reality is when you're more melanin rich, there's always going to be some areas on your body that have a little bit more pigmentation than other areas. It's totally natural. My 2-year-old daughter has it. So it's not something that you need to fear or that you feel that you have to correct. It's something to embrace and know that it's completely natural and normal. Now, an abnormal spot that's following hyperpigmentation from acne or melasma, yeah, go ahead and treat that. But don't feel like you have to be all one tone from head to toe. Your elbows, your knees, they're supposed to be a little bit darker. There's more skin cells there so that they can stretch over your joints. So of course they've got more melanin in those skin cells. Normal, my friends. You don't have to try and be one shade.
We talked about certain cosmetic procedures on Dr. Alexis's channel, so make sure you check that out. But something that I've been kind of like, we've been talking about laser hair and things like that, but there's some people that still think that lasers aren't for black skin. So what are your thoughts, Dr. Alexis?
So lasers can safely be done on even the deepest, most melanin rich skin if it's the right laser and the right person behind the laser. You actually need both things for magic to happen and not have an adverse event. So it's not a complete myth, so only because a lot of people have been burned. I'm sure someone watching this right now has been burned from a laser because it was either the wrong laser, the wrong settings, see? Or the wrong person behind the laser. So you really need to make sure you do your homework, ask for the receipts, ask them before and afters, before you just go and you sit in front of someone's laser to have it done. So it can be safely done, but make sure that you do your homework before you do it.
Yeah, and I just gotta quickly tell you guys my story. One time I had a dermatologist office reach out to me because they saw something I had written about laser hair removal and thinking about getting it. And they were like, come on in. So mind you, they've read my blog. They seen the melanin, right? They know that I am someone who is going to write things for the public to see. This is probably about 8 years ago. So I knew some things, but not as much as I know now. I knew enough back then to be like, okay, do you got the laser for the blacks, right? So they're like, oh yeah, come on. Things seemed okay at first, but then I was like, ouch. When I got home, I realized they had burned me. Skin got lighter. So I had like a little, I guess I don't know if you would call that like a true hypopigmentation, but this, or maybe it was just because the top layer of skin had burned off. Thank the Lord, and for them, that the skin healed properly for me. So I didn't have any scarring, I didn't have any issues or anything like that. But, you know, I let them know that they burned me and they were like, oh, wow, how did that happen? My, we had no clue. Months later, that same office emailed me like, oh yeah, we have a new specialist that, you know, that works with skin of color and we have the new laser. I'm like, yo, lied to me. So you have to be very careful. It happened to me, but this was like 8 years ago now. And I feel like now that we have a little bit more representation and more information out there, hopefully something like that wouldn't happen to you.
It still happens every day though, so be super careful.
Yeah, you really gotta research these people. And when I tell you people like, you know, make sure you go to someone who has receipts, that they know what they're doing with skin of color. It is so important. Hot showers, they come for me, Dr. Alexis, sometimes when I tell them like, you know, a hot shower is probably not the best for you. But what some people are doing, they're saying like, okay, I'm gonna take my hot shower, but then I'm gonna put on extra shea butter after. So what are your thoughts on that?
So, hot showers cause something called transepidermal water loss, which just means that your body actually starts to lose water and you can get a damaged skin barrier. So, the covering of your skin does not benefit from the hot showers. And then putting shea butter on afterwards does moisturize the skin, but it doesn't take away the fact that you've now had excessive transepidermal water loss and possible skin damage from the hot shower. So my advice would be to turn the shower down. You don't have to turn it all the way down, but at least turn it down so it's not scorching so hot that it looks like you walked into a steam room.
Right, because I feel like when I say lukewarm, like I have to keep telling people lukewarm doesn't mean cold.
It's very true. It's actually why I always explain it that way, because when I say lukewarm, people look at me like I'm crazy. So yeah, you just need to turn it down a little bit.
A lot of people I've noticed, and they notice themselves as well, that they've got a lot of dark spots and along the jawline, along the chin, and I would bet my life savings that is because they're plucking their facial hair. I do laser hair removal, but when I do have like, you know, some like breakthrough hair in between sessions or even before I was getting it, I would dermaplane. But when I mention that to some people, they think, oh no, when you shave, the hair is going to grow back thicker. So what is the actual truth there?
So this is a myth, but the reason that it exists is because think about like when you cut grass. If you cut all the grass at one time, all of the grass grows back very much so evenly and it looks a lot thicker. That same thing is going to happen if you shave all of the hairs at the same time. They're going to grow back evenly and they appear thicker, but they are definitely not. Think that that long grass blade is very thin and tapered on the end, and so you don't notice it as much. But if you cut it short, it's much thicker, and so it feels thicker, it feels a little bit rougher. That's the same thing with the hair follicle. It's really thin on the ends, and so you don't notice those as much. Complete myth, doesn't happen, but does feel a little bit differently as they're all growing in together.
What is the best way for us to remove hair at home that's going to lessen the type of irritation that may come that can cause more issues like hyperpigmentation?
It depends on the kind of hair, right? Because there's actually two different types of hair. There's vellus and there's terminal. So the vellus is the really thin hair, and then the terminal is kind of the more thick, coarse hair that a lot of women start to get as they have more birthdays, and it happens around this jawline, and it can almost seem like there's a beard that's all of a sudden out of nowhere growing in. That thicker, more terminal hair should truly be treated with a laser. That's kind of the be all, the end all. It's the easiest thing to do. But if that's not accessible to you, shaving it's not a terrible idea. Using a chemical depilatory that's actually made, or which is like, means it's a cream that you can put on your skin that's made for hair removal. That would be another way to do it, but you have to make sure it's for sensitive skin and it's for the face, because the ones for the body are too strong for this area. And if you can, maybe do some dermaplaning if it's the vellus, the baby, the thin hairs. So it just depends on which hair it is. And if you have access to the laser, I'm telling you, it's like life-changing to just go ahead and get that done.
Hydroquinone isn't safe. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Alexis?
So the thing about hydroquinone, also known as the gold standard for pigmentation treatment, is that it works very well. And it's one of the strongest and most effective things you can do for pigmentation. However, I like to prescribe hydroquinone the same way that I would prescribe a narcotic for pain. It has a time, it has a place, it's very short-lived, it's only when you absolutely need it, and it really should be something that is monitored because it's easily abused. So the same way that if you have a surgery, you might need a little bit more than that Tylenol over the counter, that's the same thing with certain pigmentation disorders. You might need a little bit more than what's available over the counter, but you don't need it forever. You just need it for a short burst because you run the risk of adverse events. With hydroquinone, the adverse events are indeed addiction. I deal with this all the time. And if you don't want to take the break that's required for you to actually be able to safely use it and you keep going, you can get rebound hyperpigmentation or ochronosis. That really is like this gray pigment that's super deep. It's very difficult to treat. And unfortunately, where I live, it's actually extremely common. It's usually not something a lot of people get, but for some reason, South Florida is just a really hot spot for this particular type of pigmentation. So it can safely be done, but you have to be really, really careful about how you use it. So in my personal practice where I live, it's actually pretty common, but that's not the case for everyone. When I actually practiced on the East Coast, I saw it few and far between, but now that I'm in South Florida, I actually see a great deal of it. That's probably multifaceted. A lot of my colleagues send me their difficult pigmentation patients. A lot of people find me on social media for pigmentation, so I probably get very difficult cases, but I see it every single day. So for me, it's pretty common, but for the average person, I would say it's not.
Unfortunately, there are way more myths than just that. You know, black don't crack, cosmetic procedures ain't for us, and some of y'all out there using red raspberry oil, shea butter, coconut oil as sunscreen, and we talked about that over on Dr. Alexis's channel, so make sure you hop on over there, because we're gonna bust a hole, big old hole right up in those myths. Follow me on social. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. The links will be in the description box. Make sure you follow your girl. Make sure you follow your girl, Dr. Alexis, as well. I know most of you probably already do, but if you're not, head on over to her channel and show her some love, and I'll see you fine folks in my next video. Bye, guys.